be engaged in the conversation. Yet, if you do have questions, I love them. Um, Before we get off to the jump, does anybody have any questions for me or anything that they were curious that they hope I talk about? No? All right. Well, let's press in. Um, so, kind of talking about career, I can talk about a little bit about my journey. I can give you some kind of uh, ideas about my military life, and I will just start there, and we'll see if any questions come out of that. Like I said, I joined in December 2002. Um, and some of the things that motivated me to join the Air Force. One, my father also served in the Air Force for 20 years, so wanting to follow a little bit in his footsteps. Um, that's one reason. Another reason, um, significantly before many of your time, 9/11 had just happened a year prior to that, and a cousin of mine was taken from us, and she was in the second twin tower, and um, I felt compelled to uh, serve in her honor as well. Her name was Lynette, and so those are kind of the basic reasons I joined. And then um, I joined, like I said, in December 2002, and I was sent to Texas for basic training, and then I went to Florida, um, which was both the first time I'd ever been away from home, and that was an interesting experience. Basic training, uh, really, when I look back, wasn't that hard. We did exercise a lot. If there's anybody interested in joining the Air Force or in the military, please feel free to stop me at any point and ask questions. Yes, you do a lot of push-ups in the Air Force, lots, for everything, for every reason. Even when someone else makes a mistake, you're doing push-ups. You look at someone wrong, you're doing push-ups. You breathe wrong, you're doing push-ups. It all is to make you stronger, break you down, and build you back up the way they want. After Florida, I got my first set of orders to Okinawa, Japan. And again, this was the first time I was sent outside of the United States. Not sure what to expect. Didn't know any of the people I was going. But Okinawa, Japan was an amazing experience. I lived there for 2 years and had just a really wonderful time learning Japanese, meeting the Okinawans, and just seeing a different way of life. And I definitely encourage all of you to, if you get a chance to outside of where you're from, I highly encourage it and recommend it. Um, It'll give you definitely a different perspective on life and expectations and goals and what really matters to you. I think being able to live in another's culture um, can definitely give you that opportunity. Like I said, I spent 2 years there. Got the opportunity to live in South Korea for a few weeks, a couple of different times. South Korea was in an interesting place. Um, it's it's what's the word I'm looking for? Reality check kind of can set in um, when you are the only face amongst a sea of other faces. Um, but it's humiliating. It's humbling and a reality check. It definitely lets you know. Sometimes you think you're big and bad, and yeah, you're not as big and bad as you think you are. But again, South Korea was an amazing experience. So over my career, I've gotten the opportunity to do some different kinds of training, some different kinds of jobs. The first job that I got the opportunity to do was work in this career field called non-destructive inspection, which is finding cracks on the aircraft with using certain technology. It's not as fancy as it sounds, but I got to work on a lot of different aircraft, some C-130s, F-15s, F-16s, some helicopters. I got to see and experience a lot of different aircraft, and that was pretty amazing. I also, when you're overseas, you get the opportunity to participate in exercises. It's not what it sounds like. When I first joined and I heard, oh, you're going to Okinawa, oh man, they do exercises every 3 months, and I'm thinking, oh, I've been doing push-ups every single day. I'm good. No, this is where you wear a gas mask. You're simulating like you're in a war situation. They got sirens going off. When we would do this every three months for a whole week, putting on a gas mask. And sometimes you'd be wearing your gas mask for hours. I remember one time we were doing an exercise during the summer, and this is Okinawa. Okinawa is kind of like Florida. So think of that humidity, 90% humidity, 80 to 90% degree. But in our building, the AC went out, and we had to wear a gas mask in a hot building with no AC. That was pretty miserable. In addition to wearing chemical gear, so you have your helmet, and then you see like in the movies, people wearing like Kevlar and an outer garment. So we would be wearing a simulated version, not simulated. We were actually wearing it. Again, we did that every 3 months. Now, in South Korea, they do it every 3 weeks. So that's some of the training. In the Air Force, in the active duty Air Force, we also do weapons training. So in the Air Force, it's not as intense as it is in Army and the Marines. In the Air Force, we only practice with the M16, and we have to qualify every 3 years on an M16. And you do a test, and then you have to do a score where you have to get over at least 27 out of 50 shots to even be able to use the M16, actually to even stay in the Air Force. I don't know if the rules have changed. And Air Force things change a lot. I've had 3 different uniforms in my 20 years. But yes, we do weapons training. So I've had to shoot an M16 pretty often. Never had to use it, and I'm very thankful for that. And some other trainings. In basic training, you get minimal hand-to-hand combat because we deal with planes. We're not fighting on the front line or anything like that. Army, Marines, you have weeks where you just are working on hand-to-hand combat. So if you don't want to be frontline, I don't recommend the Army or the Marines. Also, if you're thinking military, I really would think, where do you want to be after? Look at your job and what they offer as far as what exists in the working civilian world, because that really matters. You want to have job skills whenever you leave the military, whether it's 4 years or 20 years. And the military isn't interested in necessarily what your job skills are. You have to go find those job skills and take advantage of those opportunities. I also mentioned that because when I was signing up as a young man, I was offered to be a firefighter. Now, granted, 9/11 just happened, so I was thinking firefighter of running into burning buildings and things like that. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, once I joined and I got to my first duty station, I found out all firefighters do is barbecue and exercise. That's the only 2 things that they do. And I was very upset at myself. So if anyone is interested in being a firefighter and joining the Air Force, I highly recommend the firefighter world, because you get to have barbecue and then exercise. There's never any fires on base, so you don't ever really have to worry about, and you don't do fires in the city wherever you live. So that's a good job to pursue. And then anything tech, anything that requires technology, I highly recommend involve that. Some other things, I've gotten the opportunity to be live in Guam for 4 months. That was a beautiful place. I got to go live in Germany only for a few days, England for 2 days. I've been to UAE, which is Abu Dhabi, Dubai. If you've seen any of the Fast and Furious, Dubai is one of the places where they film Fast and Furious. Very hot. It's a mixture of Arizona during the day, dry heat, like 120-degree weather, and then at night, it's like Florida. The humidity is really bad because it's right next to, I believe, the Black Sea. And so it's hot all the time, all the time. Very wealthy nation. And so you'll see some amazing looking cars, cars that I wouldn't even be able to afford to test drive. They have the largest mall there. They have an indoor ski resort. They have an aquarium inside the mall. And then they have a roller coaster attached to another mall. They really, so they built some of their cities based on what they saw here in America. So there's a lot of American like trees, like there's palm trees that aren't necessarily native to there, but there's palm trees, and they built their malls because they saw how Americans kind of live around malls, and so they took it to another level. An amazing country, great people.
I have a question.
Yes.
That's a Muslim country, right?
Yes.
So is it true that the women, even if you're just visiting, that you would still need to cover up?
No. So some countries are that way. I believe Saudi Arabia is that way, but in UAE, this was really weird. You see the full gamut of tradition. So you see some of the women who are fully covered, and when I say fully covered,
I don't think
not
you see
even
their eyes.
no,
Yeah.
you can even see their eyes. It's just a black face, like everything is black, and they're fully covered.
But
You don't
how
see
could they see where to
hands.
walk?
It's like a mesh that
Oh
they
my
can see
God. And
through.
they're so hot over. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that like when you see that, that's kind of you almost feel like you're in a movie, like people with no face. So you have that extreme, and then you have women. So there's a lot of tourists there, and then you in the
Oh.
same mall, you'll see women walking around in a bikini top and some shorts, not too far from a woman who's fully covered. So yes, you see the full spectrum there. And yes, as a Muslim country, you do also hear their call to prayer.
Oh yeah.
And so you'll hear that over the intercom. And some people will pull over on the side of the highway and do their prayers. Um, so you see a full range, and some of them are very traditional, and their wives walk behind them. Um, it's it's very interesting to see how people live over there. I got to drive over there. They drive very fast. They make even Californians seem like they drive slow,
Really?
which was different. I thought I knew fast, and then I got over there, and they drive so fast they don't even care about tickets. They would rather just pay the ticket than drive slow. Yeah, yeah. UAE is an interesting place. Um, Very expensive.
Oh,
um,
okay.
Very expensive, but gorgeous, gorgeous from the sense of just how they approach life, um, and trying to be a place that welcomes tourists, that welcomes outsiders, yet staying true to their Muslim faith.
Hmm.
Very interesting. I also got the opportunity to live in a place called Kyrgyzstan, um, which is not far from the border of Russia and China. And I mentioned this as I lived there about 6-7 weeks. Um, we were there supporting troops they would bus into Afghanistan. And the reason they would bus in Afghanistan is, I don't know if you were watching the Afghanistan war, but the Taliban would shoot planes out of the sky as they were trying to enter Afghanistan. So instead of flying into Afghanistan, they would fly to Kyrgyzstan, and then we would bus troops from Kyrgyzstan into Afghanistan. So that's how a lot of troops got into that country. And it was a very beautiful country. The people there is very interesting here. I was talking to our tour guide, and I was sharing about America and some different dynamics, sharing that, even though I'm American, I'm a Black, so I'm not seen as American to others. And I was like, well, I noticed here you have Kyrgyz who look Chinese and Kyrgyz who look Russian. Is there any difference? And he looked at me so confused. He's like, why would there be a difference? What are you talking about? And I was like, no, I mean, there's a racial difference. He was so confused. He's like, well, if you're from this area, then that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you look like outwardly. You're a Kyrgyz. And I'm like, wow, I would love to know what that feels like.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that has been a very interesting part of being in the military and traveling. And also another dynamic, if you do join, anybody here does join the military, be prepared to be mistaken to be a celebrity. In every country I've gone, I've had people wanting to take pictures with me. I don't know who they think I am.
That can go good or bad, right? Oh my God.
Right. I'm sure I'm in many people's photo albums, and I don't think they even know who I am. But yes, in every country I've gone, I've had people smile and point or ask to take a picture with me. So if you ever do join the military and go overseas, just be prepared for something like that, because it does happen. That's how many countries see Black Americans as celebrities. So that has always been an interesting dynamic in my military career. And so outside of that, that's most of the training and most of the stuff that I've been able to do over the 20 years in the Air Force. And I'm thankful for the retirement. I'm glad to be done. I've spent the last 14 years in what would be called the Air National Guard, which is just working 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year of training. And again, fortunately, it was only 1 weekend a month because I couldn't do active duty much longer than 6 years.
Now, why you say you couldn't do it much longer than 6 years?
Well, there's two kind of reasons for that, and I don't want to be super long-winded, but one of those reasons was I was stuck here in Idaho, and usually every 2 to 3 years they send people to different places. And when I was coming upon my 3 years, my supervisor had denied me orders to leave. Because I was trained in a certain inspection that only 2 of us on the base could do. And so I didn't know he had that ability, so he denied my orders. And I told him, well, if you deny my orders, I'm gonna just get out. And he's like, well, that's your choice, but I'm not gonna let you go to a different place. So I realized active duty, whenever you think you're free, active duty will remind you that you're not, and that you're not your own, and that your choices. So the military is built and exists regardless of who is there. It's probably one of the most well-oiled machines in existence. It doesn't matter if you're a general or a low-ranking soldier. They don't need you specifically. And so that's why I say, if you do decide to join the military or even considering it, look at all the options that will benefit you, whether that's signing bonuses, whether that's where you get deployed or where you get stationed, what jobs, how long those tech schools are. All of that matters. Don't just take the first job. No matter what a recruiter says, you don't have to do anything a recruiter says. Nothing. They're literally only doing their job by quota. That is it. They don't care what you are good at, and they'll try to use the ASVAB to manipulate you into certain jobs by saying, oh, you scored high in this, you should do this. They're saying that because that job needs people. What I would encourage anyone to do is to say, okay, that's cool, but I like this and I want to do this. What jobs fit this? And here's the deal. They might push back and be like, well, I don't know if you qualify for any of those. I tell you right now, get up and go over to the next office, whatever it is. You don't have to join. And then tell them, hey, this is what I'm interested in. And then go back to the Air Force and be like, hey, they offered me this bonus and this job. I guarantee you that recruiter is going to be like, well, wait. Don't be in such a rush. I promise you, these are things that I wish I would have done when I signed up. I wish. And then recruiters will also try to make you feel like time is of essence. Like, oh, if you don't do this, if you don't get in this job, I can't guarantee to get you in. That's fine. There's no such thing as you have to do something by a certain time. The Air Force is always taking people. There's never, there is no rush. Take your time, find the right job, find a job, especially if you can find a job with a bonus. I would suggest looking for jobs that have bonuses and bonuses with good size. Because remember, you live in California. So I got a bonus for joining for 6 years instead of the traditional 4 years. I got a $2,000 bonus. I saw 1,000 of that.
Because it was taxed so high. California
took half of my bonus. Yeah. But I didn't know that until after I joined. And I saw my bank account and I was like, hey, why does that look so small? Is this? Oh, it must be in installments. No, California takes half of a bonus. So make sure you get a hefty bonus. And don't necessarily just sign up for 6 years because of a bonus. Because one thing they don't tell you is if I had signed up for 4 years, when I hit 4 years, the job that I was doing then offered another bonus to people after 4 years. That was bigger than my bonus when I signed up for 6 years, which I didn't find out until after. So I tell everybody, And another thing that I'll suggest, get some college under your belt. If you can do it through high school, if you can do community college, get some, because that will push you can enter in at a higher rank and you can start making more money. And I say that that's important because the lowest ranking person in the Air Force makes, because again, your clothes, your food, your housing is all paid for. What you actually make is probably close to like $500 to $800 a month. It's poverty, yes. It's poverty because they're paying for your food, your housing, clothes.
Okay, I thought I thought we were expected to pay out of that $5. Okay, no. So this is what you're bringing home for you to just do.
To do what? So you can't just go be buying nice stuff because you only
No.
And a lot of people make that mistake because one thing you'll see around a lot of military bases is car dealerships. And car salesmen know before you get paid and will say things like, oh man, you're the military? We could get you qualified easy. This new truck souped up, we got you covered. You got a consistent check. You don't have to worry about anything.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't tell you is, and this is where I realized the military is something that we can't even fully comprehend. Because if you miss a payment, your supervisor, you can get in trouble by the military if you miss a payment.
Wait a minute. So if you don't pay your personal bill, the military gets notified.
Yes. And you will get in trouble. You will get written up. They know everything about you.
Yeah, because you're representing them, right? You're representing the military. So, yeah.
Okay, military child.
Support, all that.
Oh my God.
Yes, the military will know everything. The military has the power to nullify a marriage. If they think the marriage is under false pretense, they can nullify that marriage.
Wow.
And I know that because I've seen it happen. So people will try this whole, like, once they find out how much they'll make if they get married. And I've seen people who aren't really a couple try to get married. And the military will do two things. They'll send one of those people away, or they'll nullify the marriage if they don't think it's real. And you have to show a consistency of relationship for them to believe that it's real.
That must be a lot of hell of a money to fake a marriage and do all that.
Compared to making what you do as an airman, yes.
Okay.
Because they give you living allowance and stuff like that. So those things start to add up.
Because you have a family, right?
Yes, exactly.
Felicia, did you ever live on the base?
Yes. I grew up on the base.
Oh, you did? Okay. Okay, I didn't even know that.
He was in the Army.
Huh?
Yeah, my dad was in the Army. So yeah, we lived on the base. And then when he got promoted to a chief warrant officer, we got to live in the officer quarters. So yeah. That's cool. Like you said, they pay for everything. So
Okay.
Yes.
and then I like when we moved to Germany. It was cool because we had 8 bedrooms. So that was the first time we all, there was 5 of us. So we all got to have our own rooms.
Okay.
So that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So they try to, for however many people are in the household, they try to go then one room more.
Okay.
That's the goal, to do that. Another tidbit I'll share about the military, like I said about the school, if you can get you don't have to get a full 2-year degree. If you can get some college under your belt, but also I highly recommend being an officer. I know that can sound scary because they don't talk about leadership within the Black community very often or ever, but all of you are more than capable of being an officer in the Air Force. Having served 20 years in the Air Force, and now I have 2 different degrees, I realize I'm just as smart as every officer in the Air Force. I just thought it was like this really important position, and you can make it important. It's really up to the individual. Again, officer is up to the individual. They get paid twice as much and do half the amount of work in the Air Force. So I highly suggest officer. Don't be intimidated by that. You are all more than capable of being an officer in the Air Force or any branch, as a matter of fact. You're more capable. You're just as capable and just as smart. Don't let anyone tell you anything differently when it comes to that. And if I could do it over, these are the steps that I would take real quickly. I would have finished my 2-year degree. Then I would have joined. I would have applied after either being enlisted, because I think it gives you some perspective. After 4, I would have only signed up for 4 years. I would have applied for officer school and allowed them to pay for me to get my bachelor's while in the military. And then I would have taken that, because you only then have to do 4 more years. I would have done 4 more years. Now I have a degree paid by the Air Force without even using my GI Bill yet. 4 years as an officer, so 4 years of leadership training. And then I would have entered the civilian world and then looked at using my GI Bill to get my master's. That is what I would recommend to any youth in here who's interested in the military. I tell you, you will set yourself up for levels of success that other people are still trying to figure out. This is stuff that I wish every person who is even contemplating being in the military or contemplating getting into the adult civilian work life. Like, there's significant barriers and mountains that we have to overcome as Black people in America. We can add to those barriers by not being intentional at certain ages. And I get all about having fun. Absolutely. I tell you, what's more fun than paying bills is being able to look at your bank account full of money.
Yeah.
And being like, hey, I want to go on a trip, and having the money to go on that trip. I can tell you that's way more fun than anything I would have done that I did in my 20s. Being able to buy a house, being able to buy your car, owning your car. These are things that significantly outweigh anything partying up in your 20s can never imagine, can count to. So don't incur that. I say this for the reason that not to say don't have your own journey, because you have to make your own mistakes. And far be it for me to tell you don't do that, because older folks try to tell me, hey, young blood, don't do this. Hey, cuz, don't do that. Oh man, you can't tell me what to do. I can do it. And I do wish I had listened to some of those older heads and things that the advice they gave me. But I also understand this is my journey, and hopefully some of the pieces of my journey I can share with y'all. And if it doesn't resonate now, maybe in 20 years, it'll resonate. And that's really what I could ever hope for, is that, if there's anything that I could say, if from the things that I've shared, is there's a big world out there to be explored. It's not limited to just white folks. Blackness is not a monolith, and we exist across the globe on so many different continents and in so many different ways and so many different paths. We have blazed the trail in so many capacities and have so much power, and there's so much richness out there to be explored. Tap into all of it. Don't hold back. I had one mentor tell me, Mario, if you say yes, does that mean you can't say no later? So say yes. You can always say no later, but once you say no, you can't say yes again. Say yes. And then if it's not fitting, then say no. And I started to live, I didn't get that advice until I was 34. Which could have been good timing, because I was a little bit more open-minded. Have been through a lot of bumps and bruises up until that point, and made a lot of mistakes. And I'm thankful for all my mistakes because they have shaped me into being the person I am today. I can say in the military, I have been written up 2 different times. I had failed fitness tests. I have failed tests to rank up. And all those failures, I had to find ways to get back up, reach out for help, learn from the mistake. What did I do wrong? Where was my mindset at in the midst of all those things? And sometimes it wasn't always necessarily I did something wrong. Sometimes my head wasn't in the right space. And so I will also suggest, and again, this is not white people stuff. Take care of your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
As young as you are, take care of your mental health. Those who are tired, I pray that you get some sleep tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I pray that you take some time throughout this week to do something that you enjoy, that fills you, whatever that is. And regularly do those things. Sometimes we feel like we have to deprive ourselves to an extent. I'm all about fasting, and I'm all about, living within my means and what do I need to live. But your mental health is primary. It's essential. Take care of yourself. Again, I can't repeat this enough because I do this with my students. It's not white people stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Don't let social media confuse you into thinking taking care of yourself is a white person thing. That's a lie. It's a trick. It ain't real. I thank you all for allowing me to share. Hopefully I didn't bore y'all too bad. And hopefully maybe you got a little bit of something out of my military story. But I will end there. And if anyone has any questions, if not, no worries. My feelings definitely will not be hurt.
Thank you. That was great information. Does
Yeah.
anyone have any questions? I know there was 2 people talking about the Air Force and they were, interested in going in. Did you have any questions for Mario? That was good information about becoming an officer in the military. So I always thought you had to have your bachelor's degree, then you can become an officer. But I like what you said, get your 2-year degree, enlist, and then have them pay for your bachelor's degree and apply for officer school. So that's good information. So that would save you money. I didn't know about that.
They actually like people they prefer people to do that because you have some enlisted experience. So you kind of know what the people you're going to lead are experiencing. They just don't tell you that at the outset.
I have a question. What is a GI Bill?
So there's different forms of that bill, and it's evolved over time. So the point of it is, it's kind of like we will not only pay for school. So it's not just they'll pay for your schooling. There's a set amount of money that they calculate for wherever you live, that region, and the schools within that region. And then they give you a housing stipend too, because they want to try to lessen the burden while you're going to school. They would like you to focus. Now, the housing stipend is not enough. You will also have to work. Unless if you can pull it off by living with somebody and they're willing to support you, by all means, but it's a set amount of money that usually covers 4 years of college, depending on what college. And not all colleges accept the GI Bill. So you have to be very intentional in finding a university or a college that will cover those that cost of the GI Bill.
So the GI Bill is basically a check.
Yes,
Okay.
which, so that everyone is understanding, they don't pay you until you go to school. They don't give you the money at first. So be mindful of that, that it has to come out of your pocket and then you kind of get reimbursed.
Okay.
And remember, this is the military. So everything is slow. So everything is 6 to 9 months after.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I should have said this earlier, because we're coming on the time. If you do join, make sure you track all the things that happen to you medically. Everything. Even if you bounce back from it, everything. Because when you do go to apply for disability, they send you to a doctor who will then try to, this is kind of a dirty thing, but will try to disprove whatever happened to you. So document everything. Everything that ends up hurting, go to the doctor. Doesn't matter. Even if you think, oh, it's a sprained ankle. That sprained ankle might hurt you later on in life. You'll be wanting that disability. So document and go to the hospital every chance you get.
What's the what do you get for being in the military for buying a house? What's that?
So the VA loan. So a lot of the terms in the military are kind of misleading. So it's not a loan per se. So they have a set interest rate, and they act as like a rich uncle. So the VA will co-sign with you on your house, and they'll have a set rate. And so whoever's buying the house will likely sell to you because they know if you default, the VA will be able to pick up the check.
Yeah.
So it's not a loan per se. It's kind of like having a rich uncle who's like, I got you. But you only do it once. They don't tell you that either. You can only do it once.
You can only buy a house once with the VA loan, but you can buy another house without the VA loan.
Correct. Okay.
So they start you up.
Yes. So I say that because you may not want your starter house to be the VA loan. Get a starter house. I mean, some states have better loan systems in place. That really nice house, then use the VA.
Okay. Yeah, right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no questions. No questions. No. Okay. Well, thank you, Mario. We appreciate having you here, giving us that vast knowledge. And,
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you.
have a good night, and we'll see you everyone on Thursday.
Okay. Okay. Well, everyone have a great week until we meet again Thursday.
All right.
Okay.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Bye.